Okay, Daf Yomi. Tractate Menachot, Tractate Menachot, Tractate Menachot. Menachot. Now there's something that no one says. It's either Menachot, or Menachos, or Menachos, or Menachos. Menachot, but no one says Menachot. No one. That's like a pronunciation that falls through the cracks of everyone. All right, so we're holding on 104b Menachot b by the Mishnah. We finished with the Teiku, and now we're doing the Mishnah. All right. Zog the Heilige Mishnah. Misnad bin Yain, vein Misnad bin Shemen, Divrei Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Tarfon Omer, Mitnad bin Shemen, Mitnad bin Shemen. One may pledge to bring independent libations of wine, but one may not pledge oil alone. This is the statement of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Tarfon says one may pledge oil as well. Amar Rabbi Tarfon, Ma matzinu b'yayin, shu b'choivo b'nidovo, av shemen, shu b'choivo b'nidovo, ma lo'i Rabbi Akiva. Lo, im amount b'yayin, shekein kov im choivosu b'nei atzmo, yitom b'shemen, shekein kov im choivosu b'nei atzmo. Rabbi Tarfon says, just as we found that wine comes as an obligation and comes as a gift offering, independent of any offering, so too we find that oil comes as an obligation and comes as a gift offering. Rabbi Akiva said to him, no. If you said that this is true with regard to wine, as it is sacrificed with its obligatory offering by itself, shall you also say that this is also the case with regard to oil, which is never sacrificed with its obligatory offering by itself, but only mixed with the flour? Ein shnayim mitnad v'nisarin echod, aval mitnad v'noinu shlomim be'oif, afilu pereina achaz. The Mishnah concludes with a ruling concerning a voluntary meal offering. Two people do not pledge a meal offering of 1/10 of an ephah as partners, but they may pledge a burnt offering and a peace offering. And they may pledge to bring even an individual bird, not only a pair. That's the Mishnah, folks. And now for the Gemara. Zog de Heilige Talmud, Amar Rabbi, Mideu shneim nilmoid, mitnad yod min chaz nesachim michol yoim. With regard to the dispute between Rabbi Tarfon and Rabbi Akiva about whether one can pledge oil, Rabbi said, from the statements of both of them, we learned that a person may pledge a meal offering like those brought with libations that accompany animal offerings every day. Pshito. Ma'odetim en chasen davagali bam rachmana hanech b'yishim office in tefei lo kamash belon hani mini mistama avanega the bodish polish. The Gemara asks, isn't that obvious? The Gemara explains, it needed to be said, lest you say that the Merciful One revealed the nature of a voluntary meal offering. See Leviticus chapter 2. Perhaps only those 5 meal offerings detailed there are indeed brought as voluntary offerings, but any individual type, such as a meal offering brought with libations, are not. Rabbi therefore teaches us that these matters in the Torah apply only where his pledge of a meal offering was unspecified, but where he specified that the oil and flour about which he vows should be brought in the manner of a meal offering with libations, then he has specified and the vow takes effect. Ein shnayim miknadvin my taimo ilem mishum nikosiv takri voila namio kosiv yakriv. The Mishnah stated that two people do not pledge 1/10 of an ephah together. The Gemara asks, what is the reason? My time, what is the reason? If we say that it is because it is written, and when an individual brings a meal offering, Leviticus 2:1, in the singular, that is not a proof. Das ist nicht kein proof. As with regard to burnt offering as well, it is written in the singular. When any man of you brings an offering, Leviticus 1:2, nevertheless, two people may bring a burnt offering together, as stated in the Mishnah. Ela, oila my time, dichsiv loila seichem, loiloi seichem, min chanami okosi leminchoi seichem, rather, what is the reason that a burnt offering is brought by two people? The reason is that it's written in second person plural. These you shall offer beside your burnt offerings, or your meal offerings, or your drink offerings, or your peace offerings. Numbers 29:39. The Gemara points out, with regard to a meal offering, it is also written in the plural, your meal offerings. Rather, the reason the one may not bring a meal offering as a partnership is because it is written, and when an individual brings a meal offering, Leviticus 2:1, indicating that only one individual may offer it, but not two together. Tanya Nami Hachi, we learned in the Brisa also like this. Rabbi Yomer, Asher Yakriv Korban L'Chol Nidreihem, L'Chol Nidvotam, Asher Yakrivu L'Hashem, Hakol Bo'in B'Shutfis, Lo Yisilek HaKosav L'Mincha, Shenemar Nefesh. This is also taught in the Braita. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi states in explanation of the following verse: anyone that brings his offering, whether it be any of their vows or any of their free will offerings that they sacrifice to the Lord, Leviticus 22:18, it is evident from the use of the plural in the second part of the verse that any offering can be brought into partnership, and the verse excludes only a meal offering from this principle, as it is stated, and when an individual brings a meal offering. The Gemara cites another comment about the fact that the Torah introduces the voluntary meal offering by emphasizing that it is brought by an individual. Rabbi Yitzchak says, for what reason is the meal offering different from other offerings, in that the term an individual, nefesh, is stated with regard to it? The Holy One, blessed be He, said, whose practice is it to bring a meal offering? It is that of a poor individual, and I will ascribe him credit as if he offered up his soul, nafsho, in front of me. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, ma nishtaneta mincha, ma nishtanis mincha, shenema, in brackets says shenema. And with this we conclude the perek of Menachot and Nisachim. Shenemu, in brackets, ba chamisha min tigun halalu mashal lemelech basar v'dam she'asa loi ohavos suda v'yodea bo shehu ani omar lo aseli min chamisha minei tigun kedei she'ehane mimcha. The Gemara cites another comment made by Rabbi Yitzchak about meal offerings. Rabbi Yitzchak says, what is the reason that the meal offering is differentiated from other offerings, in that the Torah stated these 5 types of preparations with oil with regard to it? The 5 types of voluntary meal offerings are a meal offering of fine flour, a meal offering in a shallow pan, a meal offering in a deep pan, a meal offering of 2 loaves baked in an oven, and a meal offering of wafers baked in an oven. All are brought with oil. This can be explained by a parable of a flesh and blood king whose friend made a festive meal for him. But the king knows that the friend is poor. The king said to him, make for me foods from 5 types of fried dishes, so that I may benefit from you. Hadran lach haminachos v'anisachim. May we return to you haminachos v'anisachim, and with this we start the new perek of Harei Elu. Harei Alai Saon. Harei Alai Saon. Zog the Mishnah. Harei Alai Saon yavi echad eschoinois yavi shnayim. Perashti v'enu yodea ma perashti yavi shishim yisaon. The Mishnah says, one who says, It is incumbent on me. It is incumbent upon me. Excuse me. It is incumbent on me to bring a tenth of an ephah for a meal offering. Must bring a meal offering of 1/10. If he says it is incumbent on me to bring tenths of an ephah, he must bring 2/10, as that is the minimum plural amount. If he says I specified several tenths of an ephah, but I do not know which number I specified, he must bring 60/10, as that is the maximum amount of a meal offering. The flour beyond the amount he actually specified is rendered a voluntary meal offering. Hare alai mincha yavi eina shirtze yavi ezo shirtze hunomer yavi mincha soiles juhumi yochedes sheba menachot. If one says it is incumbent on me to bring a meal offering, he may bring whichever meal offering that he wishes, meaning the fine flour meal offering, the shallow pan or deep pan meal offering, or the meal offering baked in an oven in the form of loaves or wafers. Rabbi Yehuda says he must bring the fine flour meal offering and is the most notable of the meal offerings. Maybe it's also the most common. Is that possible? Most notable. I'm not sure what notable means. Oh, if it's notable, it says miyuchedet. Not sure. Okay, mincha o min hamincha yavi achas. Menachos o min menachos yavi shtayim. Pirashti ve'enu yodea eze mehen pirashti yavi chamishtan. If one says it is incumbent on me to bring a meal offering, or it is incumbent on me to bring a type of meal offering, he must bring one meal offering. If he says it is incumbent on me to bring meal offerings, or it is incumbent on me to bring meal offerings of a certain type, he must bring 2. If he says I specified a meal offering, but I do not know which meal offering I specified, he must bring all 5 types of meal offerings. Pirashti mincha shel esroinim. V'in yodea kaman pirashti yavei shishim isaron. Rabbi Omer yavi menachos shel esroinos me'echad ve'ad shishim. If one says I specified a meal offering of tenths of an ephah, but I do not know how many tenths I specified, he must bring a meal offering of 60 tenths of an ephah. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi says his obligation is satisfied only when he brings meal offerings of all sizes in increments of tenths of an ephah, ranging from 1/10 of an ephah to 60 tenths, for a total of 60 meal offerings with a total volume of 1,830 tenths of an ephah, or 183 ephahs. He fulfills his vow with one of the meal offerings, and the rest are rendered voluntary meal offerings. What is this? A pause, a little brief hafsaka, and we're back. And we're back with the Gemara. Zog the Heilige Gemara. Pshita esroinois yavi shtayim etzichalei. Hanami pshita miud esroinois shtayim etzichalei. The Mishnah teaches that one who says it is incumbent on me to bring a tenth of an ephah for a meal offering must bring a meal offering of a tenth. The Gemara asks, isn't this obvious? Why is it necessary to teach this in the Mishnah? The Gemara answers that it was necessary for the Mishnah to mention this case as a preamble to the following halacha. That if one says it is incumbent upon me to bring tenths of an ephah, he must bring 2/10. The Gemara asks, isn't this also obvious? The Gemara answers, it was necessary to teach that the minimum amount that the word tenths is used is in reference to 2/10. But that's with everything though. Everything, the minimum amount is 2. So I don't understand why you have to teach it here. Okay, whatever. Funakashe start me nicht. That means you don't die from a question. All right. Anyway, pirashti, nevertheless, he'd like to know the answer. Pirashti v'nedeh ma pirashti. Pirashti v'nedeh ma pirashti. Yoishishim yisarim man tana. The Mishnah teaches that if one says, I specified several tenths of an ephah, but I do not know what number I specified, he must bring 60 tenths. The Gemara asks, who is it Tana who taught this? Amar Chizkiya delo kerabi, di Rabbi ha'amar, Yavi min ha'chois shel esroinois, me'echad ve'ad shishim. Chizkiya said, this statement is not in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi mentioned at the end of the Mishnah. As if it was the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, didn't he say that such a person must bring meal offerings of all sizes in increments of tenths of an ephah, ranging from 1/10 of an ephah to 60 tenths? Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Afinu tema Rabbi be'omer pirashti yisroinais, אבל לא כבתי מחלי, תמאס שיטין esroinois b'shitin mani. And Rabbi Yochanan disagreed and said, you may even say that this statement is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, because the case at the end of the Mishnah is a case where one specified that he would bring the tenth of an ephah in a single vessel. In such a case, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi holds that one may bring 60 different amounts in 60 different vessels. By contrast, the former case in the Mishnah is one where the person says, I specified several tenths of an ephah, but I did not establish that they must be brought in one vessel. In such a case, all agree that he must bring 60 tenths of an ephah in 60 vessels, a tenth in each vessel. The Mishnah teaches that if one says, it is incumbent upon me to bring a meal offering, the first Tana holds he may bring whichever meal offering he wishes, whereas Rabbi Yehuda maintains that he must bring the fine flour meal offering, as is the most notable of the meal offerings. It is taught in a bride, Rabbi Yehuda says, that he must bring the fine flour of meal offering, since in the passage of the Torah that discusses the meal offering, Leviticus chapter 2, the verse opens with the fine flour offering first, mentioning it before the other meal offerings. The Gemara challenges, if that is so, one who says, it is incumbent upon me to bring a burnt offering without specifying which type of animal, must bring a young bull as his burnt offering, since the verse opens with it. Okay, we'll stop here.